This is CBC Here and Now.
The crew members, they're going to make enough for a set unemployment each. So, I mean, they're going to make what, $30,000 this year compared to $70,000 or $80,000 last year. That's a huge difference.
Crab harvesters are facing a new financial reality following weeks of turmoil.
Tempted to speed? Well, think again, because you might be on camera. All about a new pilot project coming to the streets of Mount Pearl and Paradise. That's just ahead.
Good evening and welcome to Here and Now. Well, it took weeks of bickering and protesting and hard-nosed negotiations, but the annual crab harvest is underway in this province. But big questions remain as hundreds of boats head out to sea and thousands of people head back to work to process the catch. Questions like how to avoid similar upheaval in the future. Here and Now's Terry Roberts has the latest.
The feeling is defeat.
This harvester spent the day preparing his vessel. Will head to the fishing grounds tonight, but after 6 weeks of fighting for a better return for his crab, he's feeling deflated.
I got bills to pay, but at $2.20 a pound, I get 80,000 pounds. Like, that's $170,000, $80,000. That's enough for me to pay my expenses for the year. Okay, I'm not going to make 5 cents this year.
And he's angry at his union.
They don't really care about us fishermen.
The Fisheries Union and the association that represents plant owners announced a deal on Friday, with Premier Andrew Furey and other politicians mediating talks. Harvesters will be guaranteed a minimum price of $2.20 per pound for their crab for the entire season, the same arbitrated price that ignited the standoff last month. There will also be bumps in price if market conditions improve. So was it all worthwhile? This union leader says locking in the minimum price was a victory.
If you were fishing right now, the price would probably be $1.76 to $1.80. So there's 40 cents there. There's nothing insignificant about that.
And there's a commitment on all sides to once again review the price-setting process, known as final offer selection.
Shining a light on the problems with FOS is also significant, and there's value in that.
But the man who speaks for plant owners is not convinced the price-setting panel system should be tossed.
But I would like to acknowledge very clearly that the integrity and the leadership shown by the price setting panel this year was a significant improvement from previous years.
Crab began landing at various ports over the weekend. An enlarged quota of more than 50,000 tons is there to be caught. The nearly 24 processing plants are being reactivated. But the tie-up has shortened the season, and there's no guarantee all that crab will be landed. So harvesters are being told to prepare for trip limits.
If only 30,000 can be caught, the pain will have to be shared.
With all sides meeting this afternoon to try and hammer out an orderly harvest.
We will be enforcing trip limits this year as individual producers, and we expect that DFO, who have guaranteed that the existing trip limits that are conditions of license, will absolutely be enforced.
Meanwhile, deep wounds remains from weeks of protests and animosity. Greg Pretty admits it's been a stressful time, but he's blaming critics such as Jason Sullivan for all the discontent. Sullivan was very critical of the union, using social media and his podcast to convince harvesters to reject an earlier deal.
He spent 6 years of his life tearing down his union. It makes no difference who's in power. It makes no difference what price comes back.
But this harvester has other priorities now. Wade Bolt has some crab to catch and a new financial reality to deal with.
I mean, they're going to make what, $30,000 this year compared to $70,000 or $80,000 last year. That's a huge difference.
And to add more insult, he's paying more per pound for the squid he'll use to bait his pots than the crab that he'll catch. Terry Roberts, CBC News, St. John's.
Well, the union said on Friday that it has an agreement to look at that price-setting process, and today the Premier says he is open to changing it if both sides can agree on a better process.
It's to get boats in the water, so there isn't a standoff. So the instrument didn't work this year, so it behooves us to figure out a way to improve the instrument, create a new instrument, or get rid of instruments altogether. But we need to make sure that we have this time over the summer to talk to both sides and see what's best. I do think it's important that both sides agree to honor the process that's established after due consultation.
Well, today felt very different depending on what part of the province you were in. Temperatures well into the teens up across Labrador. 17 degrees was the hot spot, and that was in Happy Valley Goose Bay. You head across the island and a very different story for the Avalon. Only 2 degrees in St. John's today. Cape Race topped out at 4 this afternoon, and we do have single-digit temperatures all along the northeast coast at the moment. That is a significant change up across Labrador from where we were sitting yesterday, between 9 and 12 degrees or even 13 degrees warmer in Churchill Falls for the last 24 hours. And then temperatures are a bit below that for some areas across the island. If we take a look at what's going on right now, that area of low pressure offshore is actually a front that moved through, hence that colder air in behind it. We do have that northerly flow, which is why those temperatures are significantly chilly for the Avalon, and some cloud cover moving in across Labrador at the moment, at least Lab West. But if we take a look at what's happening right now along the strait, first time in a long time where we haven't seen any ice, nearly ice-free for those of you along the strait. But if we take a look at where some of that pack ice still is along the northern peninsula, and really this model here showing it fairly well. The good news is there's not a whole lot of ice in behind that, and if we can continue to see that southerly flow, that should push the remainder of that out. We will talk about whether we'll see southerlies when I come back.
Well, shelves are empty at the St. Vincent de Paul Food Bank in the west end of St. John's tonight, not because of the need for food, though that is high, but because the food bank has finally shut down. Here Now's Heather Gillis has this update.
Food bank closed. It's a sign no one wants to see. This building, called the Hut, where the St. Vincent de Paul Food Bank operated, has been sold along with the Corpus Christi Catholic Church to compensate Mount Cashel abuse victims. Pantry manager Kathy Fleming says they've been searching for a new home, but no luck.
Just kind of said that we have to close the doors and move, and we have nowhere to move.
Fleming says they fed up to 200 clients each month and helped a rush of hungry people last week before they closed their doors.
We had 40 plus calls Friday morning, and then we had to try to contact all of those people, and we served over half of the calls that we had.
This food bank closure comes at a time when inflation is squeezing household budgets and pushing food prices higher. The volunteers inside now worry where their former clients will turn to make ends meet. The 3 next nearest food banks are all about 4 kilometers away, or at least a 45-minute walk one way. Sister Betty Morrissey was the food bank's spiritual advisor.
People here have no transportation. So now they're going to have to spend part of the money that they do have to get transportation to go to another food bank.
Sister Betty, who's also a chaplain for the Newfoundland Rogues, enlisted some players to help pack up the shelves today. Some expired food will go to a farm to feed animals, while the rest will go back to the Community Food Sharing Association. She calls the closure unfortunate.
What does it mean? It means to me a broken heart for someone. That's what it means to me. I know from the groceries that I pick up now, I pick and choose what I pick up.
For Fleming, the closure might spell the end of her volunteering days.
I think I'm at the point where I might be finished volunteering for a while.
Politicians promised to help them find a new home, but that hasn't happened yet. In a statement, the Department of Children, Seniors and Social Development said it's working with Minister Tom Osborne's district to help reopen the food bank. And anyone without access to food should call 211 to find emergency food programs in their area.
There should be a place for us to go, and there will be a place for us to go.
So you're not giving up?
No, I'm not giving up.
Heather Gillis, CBC News, St. John's.
Well, a pedestrian was taken to hospital with serious injuries Saturday afternoon after being struck by a vehicle outside a St. John's pharmacy. Police say a vehicle in the parking lot drove into Shoppers Drug Mart on the Marchant Road, colliding with a 42-year-old woman in the process. Paramedics and the St. John's Fire Department worked together to free the woman, who was trapped underneath the vehicle inside the store. The 77-year-old male driver was not injured. It happened around 3:30 in the afternoon. police are asking anyone with information or video footage to contact the RNC. Well, drivers on the Northeast Avalon may want to keep an eye on the speedometer, whether you see a police car around or not. A pilot project testing speed cameras is coming. The provincial government will test a new photo radar camera in the Mount Pearl and Paradise areas. Here Now's Henrika Wilhelm shows us what that will look like.
With this new technology, the coyote is finally going to catch the roadrunner when it's all said and done.
At least in Mount Pearl and Paradise. Starting June 1st and running throughout the summer, drivers in the two towns can expect to see a sign just like this, followed by a camera.
So this is not a trick. We're not trying to trick people and make money. We're trying to reduce speeds.
There will only be 2 cameras moving throughout 6 locations: Brougham Drive, Carwood Drive and Carlisle Drive in Paradise, as well as on Park Avenue, Blackmarsh Road and Michener Avenue in Mount Pearl. Both municipalities have installed various kinds of speed calming measures over the years.
We feel now we're not getting any more bang for the buck. Lots of municipalities, including Mount Pearl, Paradise, have done this. And frankly, over the last 10 years, we haven't seen much of a change in speeding. So I think it's time now to take that money that we normally invest every year and put it into something that's new.
Based on the research, our town engineers feel installing traffic cameras over the next 3 months will deliver the most benefit to curtailing speeding in the area.
A photo of the rear license plate of offending vehicles will be taken and the registered owner gets sent a letter like this one. Drivers can relax for now. No tickets will be issued during this test run. Data from other legislations, not just nationally but globally, shows it works.
We know that speed cameras reduce speeds 30 to 50%. They reduce accidents, serious injuries, and save lives.
Then why the need to test it out? Studley says locally there are still many unknowns.
We need this data to inform how big a solution do we need, and also the court process is a significant one to consider, and how much work municipalities are prepared to put in. And the more people are speeding, the more automated we want to be, but we also need kind of a right-sized solution.
It's innovative from a provincial perspective, but we see this all over the world. How we implement it, I think, is probably the test here.
This is one of 3 Mount Pearl streets identified as speeding hot zones where cameras will be installed as part of the pilot project. Minister Studley says towns from all across the province are showing interest in the project, and there are plans in place to soon bring one of those cameras to a town near you. Henrika Wilhelm, CBC News, Mount Pearl.
Well, an update for anyone looking to replace their vehicle registration. You won't need to wait on the phone or take a number at motor registration to do it. Digital Government and Service NL announced today that this can now be done online by visiting MyGovNL and creating an account. Drivers can still submit an application in person, over the phone, or in writing. And today, government unveiled changes it says will increase transparency and strengthen the Public Utilities Board. But the opposition parties are warning the changes to the independent group that regulates the price of gasoline and insurance could have the opposite effect. Here Now's Mark Quinn reports.
The government says the changes will allow it to require public hearings from the Public Utilities Board and allow it to appoint temporary commissioners to make the board more efficient. But the NDP worries the amendments will undercut the board's independence. Jim Dinn fears the government could use the same powers to order a public hearing to order the PUB not to have one.
It's bothersome when the government has the power to say no hearing, a public hearing is required on this. In the interest of transparency, then, I think that needs the PUB has to have that ability to say yes, we're going to proceed with it anyway.
Members of the government say this fear is unfounded, and the province's Public Utilities Board will remain independent.
If the PUB said something was necessary, I would find it very difficult for to say that any cabinet would come out and say no, we don't think that's necessary. So if the PUB were to say yes, we're moving forward that way, then we will be supportive of that, I would imagine.
Then I would say that he suffers from a lack of imagination, because I can certainly imagine that would be happening.
The NDP is also concerned about a proposed change that would allow the appointment of short-term PUB members with voting rights. Jim Dinn fears this could lead to the appointment of commissioners who could help the government get what it wants.
Is it possible then to have commissioners then that may be favourable towards a certain proposal that maybe government is also backing? So.
Government ministers say this isn't a valid concern.
Request for a short-term commissioner, a temporary commissioner, comes at the request of the chairperson, right? So, the cabinet wouldn't go to them and say, by the way, this is the person that you need. It works the other way.
The Progressive Conservatives say they share the NDP's concerns about maintaining the independence of the PUB.
We asked that same question, so I guess those are questions we'll save for committee, and maybe we'll wait for the minister to answer them. But there's some concern about that, yeah, no doubt.
All parties agree one amendment is overdue. One proposed change would require the PUB to weigh the environmental costs, not just the financial costs, when making decisions about the delivery of power to customers. Mark Quinn, CBC News, St. John's.
Another 2-on-1. Isaac Johnson. His shot scores! Isaac Johnson, 4-0 Growlers.
Well, after a rough weekend, the Newfoundland Growlers trounced the Florida Everblades for a much-needed third-game win in the Eastern Conference Final last night. The Growlers took the Everblades 4-1 at Hertz Arena in Florida. Last night, Keenan Suthers scored in a first-period power play, and the team never looked back. Goalie Luke Cavalin made 30 saves over the course of the game. Game 4 happens Thursday in St. John's.
Towards the end of the era of the aviation mission.
They've been around for more than 100 years. Why flights like this to detect icebergs may soon come to an end.
Taking a look at the weather, that's going to improve tomorrow. Temperatures really climbing for some of us. We'll get into all the details when I come back. Last week, I brought you a special feature story about my day in the air with the International Ice Patrol. They've been an eye in the sky for more than a century, helping track icebergs and keep ships safe at sea. But flights like this one are coming to an end. Here now, Zach Gowdy explains why.
Watching the crew of the International Ice Patrol at work, spotting icebergs from an airplane, it looks like one of the coolest jobs in the world. And it is.
What's the coolest part of this job?
You're on it right now, the flying, absolutely.
I think that'd be easy, right? The flying. The flying is the best part. You get to be up here, see Newfoundland, see the coast, see the waters and the icebergs around it.
Seeing new things. I'm from Florida, so seeing all this, ice and snow, it's a lot different. How did it feel the first time you came up from Florida and saw this? I was excited. I like the cold, actually, so it's a lot different from the beach, I'll tell you that, yeah.
Only a handful of people get to see this with their own eyes, but this crew may be among the last. The U.S. Coast Guard is winding down these flights. The International Ice Patrol may soon be grounded.
So satellite imagery is our new primary tool. We can get large areas of coverage with satellite images. We're towards the end of the era of the aviation mission, and soon the satellites will be doing all of the work.
That era began more than a century ago in 1912 when the Titanic struck an iceberg off the coast of Newfoundland. More than 1,500 people were lost at sea. 2 years later, the International Ice Patrol was born. The patrol has been cruising these skies ever since, tracking icebergs from above, getting the word out to ships below. But with that era coming to a close, the current crew say there's a feeling in the air. These flights are the last dance.
I mean, it's going to be a shame when this mission stops because it's absolutely amazing coming up here and doing it. I'm due to transfer up to Kodiak, Alaska this summer, so this is probably going to be my last International Ice Patrol flight. So it definitely does have a last dance vibe for me.
Petty Officer Eric Balboa is the newest member of the patrol, and he may be the last to experience a long-standing tradition for a unit based in St. John's.
Yeah, I was maybe the last one to get screeched in the unit. So, going to that ceremony yesterday, hearing about Anthony Bourdain coming and doing that, he was an idol of mine growing up, so it was definitely something, I'm excited to be part of.
There will be upsides to tracking icebergs from a computer screen instead of an airplane window.
As technology does get better and we're able to do this via satellite, it does save a lot of man hours and it's a lot safer, obviously. It's good and bad at the same time, It's tough being away from the family on these deployments, so it does make it nice to be more of that Monday through Friday type job. But at the same time, this is an experience that just very few people get.
There will likely be at least another season of flying before technology takes over, but this mission is heading towards the sunset. Before the crew heads back to base, there's one more berg to check out, one last chance to look out the window and think of what they'll take with them when they step off this plane.
Just spending the time with the whole crew, seeing all the icebergs. It's awesome that we got to see a lot of beautiful big icebergs today, and couldn't ask for a better last patrol.
Zach Gowdy, CBC News, on board the International Ice Patrol.
This weather update is brought to you by the Healthcare Foundation Home Lottery. The absolute final deadline is midnight Friday, June 2nd. Order tickets now at hcfhomelottery.ca.
Yeah, some incredible views from that Ice Patrol plane, like you saw when you were up with them. I guess another upside would be it's going to be a lot cheaper and more environmentally friendly, I guess, to track it from the computer screen, like what you do, what you showed us that earlier in the show.
Yeah, and technology, even weather, as far as tracking weather is concerned, has been, dramatically better over the last, 10, 20, 30 years even. So satellites are an amazing thing for sure. Speaking of satellites, let's just show you the latest satellite there, and you can see that ice. Now, it's obviously not picking up on the icebergs. It'll pick up pack ice ice, at least from my weather satellite. But yes, they're definitely increasing in, you can see a lot more features can certainly be picked out. Right now, I could pick out an area of low pressure just to the west, that cloud cover starting to move in for Lab West. And then as far as the island is concerned, a nice big ridge of high pressure keeping things calm for the most part today. Lots of cloud-free skies, bluebird skies out there, but we're still in that northerly flow for the Avalon, hence why the temperatures are significantly cooler today and will be as we head through the night tonight. Temperatures today topped out at 2 degrees in St. John's. Not really much better though along the northeast coast, 5, 6, 7 degrees right through to Lassie. And then the hot spot was Happy Valley Goose Bay at 17 degrees today. So there is much milder air moving in, but for now we're hovering around 2 degrees still. That wind chill feeling more like -4. Those winds out of the northeast, 30 to 40 kilometers per hour gusting. And that's pretty much where we are going to sit over the next, at least through the night tonight. We should hover around the 1 degree mark. But still a beautiful evening out there. Badger, Deer Lake, 13, 14 degrees, 14 in Makovic today, and 16 at the moment in Cartwright. Temperatures up across Nain are currently sitting around 10 degrees, but they are going to drop as we head into tomorrow morning. In fact, there's some snow on the way for you. So that onshore flow for the Avalon is also going to keep the risk of drizzle as we head through the night tonight. Not much in the way of accumulation, but that drizzle will certainly be the story. And then we've got those showers working their way from Lab West through to northern Labrador as we get through to the overnight. Now, note in behind that, there is some colder air, and things are going to change over to snow for you. And that rain is going to work its way a little bit further south, mid-coast really at this point by the time we get into tomorrow morning, staying clear for the rest of the island in southeastern Labrador. Now, as far as temperatures are concerned, staying quite mild, 7 degrees in Happy Valley Goose Bay overnight, dropping to -1 in Nain. So you will see that change over to snow by the time we get into the morning hours. Probably 2 to about 5 centimeters is certainly possible. Otherwise, clear skies. Low-lying areas are going to see those temperatures a bit cooler. So, you know, -2, -3, but lower, a couple of degrees lower in the low-lying areas. Winds are going to stay out of the northeast as well, between 30 to 50 kilometers per hour. Now, as far as showers are concerned, you're looking at about 10 millimeters of rain likely before you see that change over to snow for northern portions of Labrador. And then again, 2 to 5 will be the story for tomorrow morning. So those showers are going to work their way slowly along the coast tomorrow, and then reaching southeastern Labrador by the time we get into the overnight. And really not a whole lot to talk about as far as the island is concerned weather-wise tomorrow. We should see lots of sunshine, some fog patches developing along the south coast as we get into the evening hours, but it will be a fairly nice day. Northern Peninsula, you'll likely see some showers as we get into Thursday morning. Temperatures tomorrow, much nicer, although I'm going to keep temperatures around 10 degrees for St. John's. Winds will be a bit brisk in the morning out of the north, 20 to 40 kilometers per hour, and then they'll ease off as the day goes on. Now, as we head towards Clarenville, Bonavista, into the teens, well into the teens, and into the 20s, even through parts of central, under lots of sunshine tomorrow, about 10 degrees in Harbour Breton. And we're looking at 20-degree temperatures extending through to Deer Lake, Corner Brook as well, and even Baver, you'll likely see your temperatures around the 20-degree mark. Now, about 10 to 12 for the Northern Peninsula, and a bit warmer even still for southeastern Labrador tomorrow afternoon. But the coolest temperatures again will be in Nain, where your winds will stay out of the north. Now, we are looking at temperatures increasing though over the next couple of days, especially across the Big Land. 7 degrees in Churchill Falls tomorrow with those showers, but the double digits will return. I'll talk about that when I come back.
I went, oh my God, not again. Because this is just, it's getting out of hand. It's absolutely ridiculous at this point in time, almost laughable.
Almost laughable, but no joke. NDP MHA Jordan Brown says the Bloc Québécois needs to fix its map. This after it erased the border between Labrador and Quebec and resolved to continue fighting for its claim to the Big Land. Quebec's federal sovereigntist party is once again making claims of ownership over Labrador, and the MHA for Lab West is voicing his frustration. The Bloc Québécois held its convention over the weekend just north of Montreal, and you may notice something's off with the map of Quebec used in the graphics on the podium there and behind the stage. The Bloc Québécois map completely removes the border between Quebec and Labrador, falsely claiming ownership of the Big Land. But it isn't just the map that has one Labrador MHA crying foul. The Bloc also voted on a motion to defend the historic land claims of the Quebec government, especially with respect to Labrador. The proposal passed with resounding applause. Well, today I spoke with NDP MHA Jordan Brown, whose district is on the border with Quebec. I asked what he thought when he saw the Bloc once again is staking claim to Labrador.
I went, oh my God, not again. Because this is just, it's getting out of hand. It's absolutely ridiculous at this point in time, almost laughable that this is a continuing trend with between the Bloc and Parti Québécois and sometimes the CAQ. They just do not want to recognize the sovereignty of this province and Labrador when they're supposed to be a sovereigntist party and talking about respecting sovereignty, but yet they want to insult us like this.
Yeah, what does it say, do you think, about their perspective of Labrador?
Well, they don't know Labrador. They don't know our culture. They don't know our heritage. They don't know our history. They know nothing about us. And that's the sad part about it, is that they don't know who we are, but yet at the same time they want to turn around and say that we're an integral part of their sovereignty. It's laughable.
Do you think it ultimately really matters? Because the Bloc, it's unlikely they'll ever be the governing party. Do you think that, why does this matter?
Well, it's because it's feeding a misinformation to an entire population, an entire province. So, you know, they have a voter base. They spread this image around. They spread this, and they're spreading misinformation to their own people about who we are. And this is what I find very worrisome, is that it keeps continuing. They don't recognize that we are a separate entity. We have our own heritage. We have our own history. We have our own identity, and they don't even take the time to even know who we are. So that's one thing. And the second thing is, the Bloc has never ran a candidate in Labrador. The Bloc has never made an official visit to Labrador. The Bloc has never done anything in Labrador or for Labradorians, even in the House of Commons, but they turn around and say we're an integral part of their sovereignty. So at the end of the day, is it just, you know, trying to get votes off something that could never ever possibly happen? Or two, are they just trying to throw shade and insult towards us as a people?
The MP in the riding that borders Labrador West is with the Bloc. Have you ever had an opportunity to speak with her about this issue or to raise this issue with anyone with the Bloc?
Actually, I tried to speak to her about some actual cross-border issues relating to airport firefighters, and every email I've ever sent her went unanswered.
What would be your message as, you know, the MHA for Lab West? What would be your message to the Bloc on this issue?
Fix your map.
Jordan Brown, thank you so much.
Thank you. Take care. Bye-bye.
Well, so what does the Bloc say about these concerns? Well, we did send an email to the communications director with the leader's office, but did not receive a response. Well, in other news, concern over rodents at a school in Conception Bay South set off quite the exchange today in the House of Assembly. Parents at Frank Roberts Junior High have protested over the problem. The school sits in Barry Petton's district. He had some questions for Education Minister John Haggie. Take a look.
To dismiss their concerns, will the minister commit to a full, independent structural and environmental assessment of the school?
I would like to table the Occupational Health and Safety Report, the Health Inspector's Report, and, for clarity, an attendance record for Frank Roberts Junior High, which shows it is amongst the highest of all junior high schools in the region for the month of May. Facts matter. The fact the member opposite does not trust these inspectors, the ones he stood up and cheered for during COVID, who kept him safe, now they're neither trustworthy, nor independent, nor reliable. Shameful.
Minister of Mess is saying shame on me. Just imagine the gall of this man to say shame on me. Shame on you, Minister. Shame on what you're saying to the people in my district. Why didn't you come up in front of the microphone? You should have come up in front of the microphone. Should have come in front of the microphone, Mr. Speaker, and told the parents. I gave him that option several times. But no, he'll stand up in the House Assembly under his parliamentary privilege and spew on facts that are not factual. He thinks they're facts, but they're not factual. Because you got to be careful, because someone's going to jump up and call you out and point of order for what you're saying the wrong word. But he owes it to the people, Speaker. Walkthroughs and cosmetic reviews are not cutting it. We have all seen the pictures of furniture chewed up by rats and buckets catching water in the hallways. Parents have questioned air quality, mould and overcrowding in classrooms. Again, will the minister commit to an independent investigation and public report into these concerns?
Facts, Mr. Speaker. I table the Occupational Health and Safety Report. This school is old but safe. So if you do not believe your own inspectors, people you once worked with when you were in government...
Order, please. Order, please. Address the chair, too, please.
Individuals kept us safe during COVID. Everybody cheered when they said what they did. Now, because they're not saying what the members opposite want to hear, suddenly they are untrustworthy, they are not factual, and they are misleading this House.
We don't agree with
Health inspector, sanitation and health, excellent. Attendance record, they are going to school in droves this month, Mr. Speaker. Those are the facts. The fact is, this school is old, but it is safe, and it needs some work, and we're doing it.
Speaker, I trust the parents, I trust the students, I trust the teachers, and I stand with the people in my district. If they got a concern with that school, so do I.
I think those discussions are healthy. I think we as an organization need to learn from and evolve as a result of those discussions to make ourselves better.
As we mark 150 years since the formation of the Mounties, many municipalities are questioning the value of the RCMP. That story is just ahead. Well, there's no need for a public inquiry into China's alleged interference in federal elections. That's the conclusion of a special rapporteur appointed to look into the situation. In a report released today, David Johnston says instead he'll hold a series of public hearings and issue a second report in the fall.
A further public process is required, but there should not and need not be a separate formal public inquiry. A public inquiry examining the leaked materials could not be undertaken in public, given the sensitivity of the intelligence.
Johnston found that there are problems with how security information is shared and that Canada needs to strengthen its ability to deal with foreign meddling. However, he says there is no evidence Ottawa knew and failed to act in any instance. The former Governor General was appointed to look into the issue 2 months ago after widespread concern over alleged attempts by the government of China to influence Canadian politicians and political decisions. Meanwhile, political reaction was split along party lines, with the opposition parties renewing calls for a full inquiry and the Prime Minister defending the recommendations.
Our democracy, there are always going to be plenty of things to criticize a government on and to challenge us to do better. But let us, please, ground it in an understanding of the true facts and not choose to risk weakening Canadians' confidence in our institutions.
David Johnston is a ski buddy, chalet neighbor, family friend, and member of the Trudeau Foundation. He has no business in this job because it is a fake job that he is incapable of doing impartially.
We remain resolute that a public inquiry is necessary to restore the confidence in our electoral system, to make sure we're showing Canadians that this is something we take seriously, and for people to have an opportunity to see and hear clearly about what's happening and what's being done to tackle foreign interference.
Well, in other news, today marks 150 years since Canada's iconic Mounties were first formed as the Northwest Mounted Police. But after decades of scandals and tragedy, some municipalities question the value of keeping the RCMP. Catherine Tunney reports.
It's the Mounties who patrol the streets of Surrey, BC. For now.
I do believe it's time to have a second look.
This man was brought in to replace the RCMP, building the new Surrey Police Service from the ground up. His pitch? A new force that will be more accountable than the Mounties. While political infighting has put the plan on hold in Surrey, he says more and more regions are reaching out.
The question is, can an organization do everything? Can they do federal policing, national security, and then do boots on the ground policing?
The question was front and center after the Nova Scotia mass shooting in 2020, where systemic failures within the RCMP were laid bare. This year, an inquiry into the tragedy called for a review of the RCMP's role in local policing.
I think those discussions are healthy. I think we as an organization need to learn from and evolve as a result of those discussions to make ourselves better.
While those discussions are playing out across the country, the top Mountie in BC argues the RCMP's model is what makes it an asset.
The knowledge, skills, and expertise that we are able to bring to any one public safety issue, whether small in a rural area or internationally, I think that's something that we shouldn't shy away from, but that we should celebrate.
But the ability to deliver on its mandate isn't the only reason why some are questioning the force. The force has been plagued by a sexual assault scandal, called out for systemic racism, and most recently, the mass shooting in Nova Scotia exposed fundamental flaws with the RCMP. It has some observers wondering if the force is even capable of change.
The glory of the Red Surge is long gone. It's long gone.
Change management was Eli Sopo's job at the RCMP, but he saw little willingness for it. He says the stakes are too high to ignore the conversation.
I guarantee you will have another major disaster, severe injuries, death, and complete chaos because of poor communications, poor issues management, poor leadership and structures.
While the decision about the Surrey Police Service rests with City Hall, the federal government says it will support communities that decide to replace the Mounties, which could fundamentally change the iconic Canadian symbol for decades to come. Catherine Tunney, CBC News, Surrey, BC.
The federal transport minister has announced changes to address the long lines at Canada's largest airports, specifically speeding up the process of clearing security at airports.
The program will offer eligible travelers an improved screening experience with specific benefits at security screening checkpoints. This includes being able to keep laptops, large electronics, and compliant liquids and gels in their carry-on.
Well, it means less screening obligations for eligible travelers like those with a Nexus membership. Al Gabra also says children under 17 traveling with a verified traveler won't need additional credentials as they have in the past. He says the changes will start going into effect between June 7th and 21st. To Be Green Farms on Prince Edward Island is growing gourmet mushrooms in an unlikely place. The owner moved to the island from Vietnam about a year ago, but couldn't find gourmet mushrooms needed for many Asian recipes. So he decided to grow them himself. Take a look.
You might be surprised to find out what's being grown in these shipping containers in Summerside. Let's take a look. What are we looking at here?
This is blue oyster mushroom, the lion's man, the shiitake, king oyster mushroom. It's our cinnamon cap, starting the reishi as well, and it needs some time to get mature. We came to Canada last year. We set up the farm. We are growing some gourmet mushroom, different variety.
Did you grow mushrooms in Vietnam?
My uncle have a big farm in Vietnam, and I have my passion to learn from him. And I didn't start business there, but I learned from his business, and that's why when we are here, we would like to bring the concept and the and the business plan to here to make it happen and make it come true here.
So you spend a month in this one?
Yeah.
And then you clean it all,
yeah.
And you grow in the number 2?
Yeah.
And then do the same thing again?
Right. And while we are growing, we also maintain the hygiene inside as well. Yeah. We have some moisture to provide moisture for the mushroom to grow.
That's a lot of mushroom for $6. Yeah.
We're new to here, so we like to test the water. We want to see how the market respond to gourmet mushroom in the islands. Our island is a tourist island, so it's tourism island, so a lot of tourists will come in summer, that. And then, I hope they will come with a great demand, and we pick up for growing more and more to meet the demand.
Beautiful mushrooms. They looked amazing.
They looked delicious.
I'd love to know how to grow mushrooms. I've attempted it once in like one of those prepackaged jobbies that you can get, but it didn't really go very well. But I'd love to learn how to grow a bunch.
Keep trying.
Yeah. Something for the list.
There you go.
All right, so we're going to have a look at the long-range forecast now. How are things looking as we get along further into the week?
Well, the good news is we're going to see some milder temperatures stick around for the week, which I like, but we will see some showers move through as well. Let's take a look at what's going to happen as we head into Wednesday evening and then eventually Thursday morning. So those showers and or flurries will continue along coastal areas of Labrador, but we are going to see another system move in as we head into the evening hours on Thursday, and that's going to bring some rain yet again along the south coast of the island, and that will work its way further north as we get into the overnight period. So we're looking at temperatures generally into the teens up across Labrador, coastal areas of Labrador. Once we say goodbye to the flurries overnight, will climb to about 5 or 8 degrees. And then for the most part for the island, we're looking at temperatures into the teens, more so into the upper teens as we head towards the west coast. And then along the south coast of the island, those temperatures will be a bit chilly, and that's just because you are in onshore flow. As those showers move in, we could see some fog patches with that as well. So Thursday evening, that will continue as we head through the overnight into Friday evening as well, and then all through the day on Friday. So periods of rain, the story. Temperatures are going to be relatively cool, especially for the eastern half of the island, between 7 and 9 degrees. Warmer, though, through the western portion of the island. You're looking at, again, another 18-degree day in Corner Brook. Northern Peninsula, your temperatures will be a bit cooler, but you won't see your rain move in until the overnight. And then Labrador, pretty lovely. Temperatures well into the teens, 16 to 18 degrees. Northern Labrador, though, you're still hanging on to your temperatures around 10 degrees, but at least you'll see some sunshine for sure. Long-range forecast showing a bit of a roller coaster. Saturday at this point looking a bit rainy, at least for the first part of the day. We might actually just see cloudy skies through the afternoon. Temperatures will hover just barely into the double digits. And then Sunday, we're looking at that temperature around 14 degrees. So at least part of the weekend looks pretty nice. Now, for central Newfoundland, after a couple of days in the teens, we'll jump right back up to the 20-degree mark. Similar forecast for western Newfoundland by 18 by the time we get into Sunday. And then for Labrador, nice stretch of weather, really nice stretch of weather, 13 to 19 degrees right through Sunday. A few showers certainly possible for western Labrador for Saturday. Otherwise, a fairly nice forecast. Now, speaking of nice, this is a beautiful, colorful sunset here in Pools Island. And Nadia sent us that shot, and thank you for that. If you have any weather photos you'd like to share with us, send them to Facebook, Twitter, but the best place is to email them to nophotos@cbc.ca.
Oh, what a vibrant pink and a bit of orange there. That is gorgeous.
It really is gorgeous. Love the colors.
Thank you, Nadia. That is absolutely lovely. We love those sunset photos.
Always.
And iceberg photos.
Always.
Any kind of photos, really. We love them all.
Such a beautiful province.
It really is. Well, that's it for us on this Tuesday evening. Thank you so much for joining us.
Good night.